Okay, so I'm just wanting to very quickly talk through your coursework planning sheet. You'll have both a physical and electronic copy of this, so which one you choose to work on is completely up to you, depending on whether you prefer working on computers or by hand. So your proposed title you should have in mind by now, whether that's love, whether that's sexual relationships, apologies for my writing, power in one of its elements, whether that's institutional power, the power of an individual, whatever it is that you're interested in, maybe identity, completely up to you which one you fancy doing, and obviously that list is completely expandable. You can change, manipulate those titles to fit the area that you're most interested in. What is important though is that theme, whatever it is that you choose, is dominant and significant in both the texts, so making sure that you've got plenty of poems to choose from, and you've got your extracts from The Handmaid's Tale which you can use. Now this bit is important. This bit is something that we've not spent a lot of time on yet, and we'll spend a lot of time on after half term, is getting our thesis and introduction right. Now for now, all I'm interested in is really this section. So what is the attitude of that writer towards that particular theme? So for example, if you were thinking about power, what does Atwood think of the imbalance of power within The Handmaid's Tale, and what gives you that impression? Now obviously for this planning sheet I'm only interested in notes, so you've not got to go into lots and lots of detail, but does she seem to promote the power imbalance within The Handmaid's Tale or condemn it? How can you see that with the characters and with the action that takes place? And then the same with Duffy. What's her point of view, what's her attitude towards power imbalance within those poems that you studied? And therefore if you're going to choose a different title, whether you're looking at identity, how do those writers seem to behave towards that theme? How do they present it? What's significant about their personal feelings of identity? It's interesting to think whether they're similar or different, so whether you think that Atwood and Duffy believe the same thing about that theme, or whether they seem to present them differently in the text that you choose. So it might be that one poem seems to think or seems very positive about identity, the second very negative. That's especially significant if you're looking at sexual relationships or love, because you might have significant differences within the poems and the extracts that you're choosing. And obviously that's been done for a purpose, which we'll talk about after half term. So significant decisions need to be made about your text choices at this point. Now nothing's set in stone at the moment. We've got plenty of time to work on this, but it is important to get those choices made so that we can start making progress. So 2 poems, 2 extracts that we're going to work with. Now we're going to really be comparing poem 1 with extract 1. Now that can be for similarities and differences. We're then going to compare obviously poem 2 to extract 2, similarities and differences. And they're going to be our 2 mini essays within an essay, if you like. So comparing one poem to one extract and the presentation of your theme within that, and then comparing poem 2 and extract 2. What I would advise with this is that you're going to try and find similar poems, so a poem that deals with the theme in a similar way to one of your extracts, and the same with your second, obviously. So if I was going to look at power within this, I would look at one poem that's going to maybe consider an imbalance of power. Stuff will be fantastic there. And an extract that looks at an imbalance of power, so maybe chapter 15 where the commander is reading from the Bible, or chapter 16 where we've got obviously the sexual relationship in the ceremony with a clear imbalance of power. And then I'd try and find a poem that maybe looked at a more balanced power relationship, maybe adultery, where they're both chosen to be there, and then compare that with an extract again where we've got a more equal power relationship, maybe the relationship in chapter 41 with her and Nick, would be an interesting one there, just so I've got lots and lots to analyse and lots to compare there. From there then, I just want a brief explanation of why you've chosen those texts. So what you think is significant about the presentation of the theme within those texts, why it personally appeals to you, and that's just going to be to aid our discussion when you return from half term about what it is that you're going to be exploring and how you're going to write well about that. So again, there's nothing overly complicated there. It's just about you making sure that you've got your ideas together for when we discuss after half term. Now this next bit is vital that you have a look at over half term. This is going to be putting together our essay really. So it's going to be looking first at our comparison number 1. So this is going to be poem 1 and extract 1 that we're going to be dealing with first. Now these themes all up here are very, very large, and what we're going to have to do is break them down into smaller aspects to identify them and to really explore them in detail. So for each of these paragraph plans that we've got here, and there's going to be 4 of them, there's one on the reverse of your sheet as well, we're going to be focusing in on one particular aspect. Now if I was looking at sexual relationships in this point, I might be exploring power in that sexual relationship as one of my aspects. Now when I move on, I want to avoid power at all costs because I don't want to be repeating myself, I don't want to repeat my analysis, because I want lots to be able to say about that. So my second one might be about love and romance, or the lack of in some cases. And then I'm going to choose my quotation. So for each of these, and so number 3 for example could be, so if I've got power, love and romance, I could be talking about the effect of that sexual relationship on the individual. That'd be interesting to have a look at. For each of these, I'm going to choose one or maybe a couple of quotations from my poem 1. So if my poem 1 was stuffed, then I'm going to choose my quotation to support that. So power, I like it to be naked and to kneel, would be a good one to use. And here I'm going to put some of the things that I might comment upon within my actual explanation. So I'll talk about the vulnerability that that comes from, excuse my writing, it's worse than ever, that comes from being naked, so that the adjective to describe her as naked. And then I might talk about the position of kneeling, that subservient position that all links this idea of power. My challenge then is to choose a quotation from my first extract, which again is to do with power. So I might look here at the commander is fucking, because again we've got the fact that it's the commander who's doing the work, the commander that is in charge, and the dynamic verb choice there tells me a lot about the power that's in that relationship. I'm going to then repeat that for love and romance, find my quotations, explain what I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to do that for 4 paragraphs, so plan 4 paragraphs of my first comparison using poem 1 and extract 1. Then on the reverse side, you've got one more, just because I couldn't squeeze it on, of poem 1 and extract 1. And then it's simply repeating that structure again for your second poem and second extract. So if you're looking at sexual relationships, I'm going to maybe find a more positive one here. I could look at sleeping. I could look at chapter 41 with Nick. And my aspect of theme might be, again, power, and looking at a more positive aspect of power, so the choice that's gone into, especially in chapter 41, but the desire for power in sleeping. I might look at passion and excitement. and so on and so forth. So I'm going to complete that. So poem choice completely up to you. We'll discuss that when you get back. If you want to have an exploration of several of these, so have a go at a few different titles, a few different poem and extract combinations, and please do, because that's only going to help you in actually narrowing down your choices when we come to start our writing. Other than that, drop me an email if you're struggling, but hopefully when we come back after half term you'll have this planned, and we'll be able to start some discussions and moving forward with our coursework. Hope that makes sense, and I hope you have a fantastic holiday.